without drastic cuts. Thanks to your support, we can continue to offer educational environments that are supportive, welcoming, and inclusive to our students and our staff. In order to balance the immediate needs of our schools with the long-term vision of the district, this year's budget proposal does not include new school-based positions at this time. These thoughtful proposals recommended to our administrative team have been kept to a minimum in next year's budget primarily for two reasons. First, we want to understand the staffing needs for the district based on a new high school schedule. Additionally, given the federal uncertainty surrounding the Department of Education's administering of grants, we are closely and carefully monitoring the status of Title I, II, III, and IV, as well as IDEA and other federal grant funding. To conclude, I want to thank our finance department and specifically our budget analyst, Jerry McHugh, for their tremendous work towards creating a stable and responsible budget for our schools. I'm appreciative for their willingness to engage in dialogue that balances both the immediate and long-term needs of Medford Public Schools. Creating a budget rooted in transparency is critical to our values here in Medford, and I'm very grateful that we have conducted this process with that goal in mind. And so now I think we would welcome up Mr. McHugh and Mr. Velez. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. I'm joined by my colleague, Mr. Noel Velez, tonight for part of this presentation, where we will give kind of a recap of information many of the school committee have already received, but in recognition that there might be people tuning in for the first time, we'll go over that. And then we have some thoughts about opportunities we have to bring more resources to the school budget. So give it to Mr. Velez to start things off.
Thank you very much, Jerry, and thank you everyone for coming out today. I greatly appreciate it. We're here to discuss our public hearing for a proposed budget for Medford Public Schools in fiscal year 26. As mentioned earlier, we are proceeding with the law Massachusetts has for us, Chapter 71, Section 38N, in which we believe we've met all our obligations, in which we posted our notice on the Boston Globe on March 13th, 2025 to have this hearing. Part of the process that we had here for the preliminary budget was we really wanted to be inclusive and let people in the buildings have a voice. So we had a great opportunity to meet with some principals, directors, leadership teams, and other parts of Medford Public Schools, the whole team as a whole over the past 4 or 5 months to gather information that we felt was vital to create a more transparent and a very well put together budget. As we all know, school committee has held 2 public hearings, one on March 5th and the other on March 20th regarding this preliminary budget. We had many requests that came in that has been mentioned earlier that we could not put in this budget. Some of it having to do just with still wanting to see the ramifications of how this new high school schedule will impact the budget, but also trying to figure out what's going on with the federal government, understanding our IDEA and our title grants, and we understanding if those grants were to go away tomorrow, the tough decisions, we would have to absorb all those salaries and all that amount. So we want to try to keep what we felt was a very clear and transparent budget, while also having some uncertainties in the future that we hope to have some clarity coming very soon. This budget, we're thankful that does not have what it had last year regarding staff cuts or anything of that nature, which we're really grateful for. That hearing everything that everybody needed, we were able to fill it in a really good way. We have here on our next slide just kind of our enrollment trends and kind of what we're projecting to be. And for next fiscal year, we're projecting to be at approximately 4,235 students. This takes into regard 20 more students from the 8th grade graduating class from this fiscal year to last fiscal year. It also takes into account what we felt was our best guess for new kindergarten enrollment, which was about, we projected 34 extra students just due to the birth rate of Medford, of the city of Medford over the last 6 years. While we do have an overall higher projected enrollment number, we're glad to say that the average class size remained very consistent from last fiscal year to this fiscal year. We have a slide here showing all the projected schools and what we predicted to be the class sizes for everyone so far going into next year. And then on slide number 5 here, we're kind of giving you just a rough idea of, based on our foundation enrollment, our foundation budget, and just as important, our Chapter 70 state aid, kind of the increases we got. As you can see here, we did not get a significant increase from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26 regarding our state aid, which just came in over $300,000.
Do you have another copy or? No, I didn't get that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I can't see the screen, so sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
I was looking. Let's see if there's another copy. It's not in the email that we got, so I didn't see this one to print. I don't get a packet delivered on Fridays.
we have an extra one right
I
here.
don't want to waste
I'll give you.
paper. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Yeah. We're grateful to the voters of Medford that last fall approved 2 ballot questions to support Medford Public Schools. Question 7 provided $3 million to stabilize the school budget. And question 8 provided $4 million to support the implementation of a new high school schedule, to expand the teaching day, as well as compensation for teachers and paraprofessionals. This resulted in a net increase to the school budget of $5,250,000. The first $1,750,000 was actually provided to us by the city in anticipation of those ballot questions in order to balance our FY25 budget. So next slide, please. Our base budget in 25 is now $83 million, and we're proposing the following changes to the base budget in FY26. Of course, the lion's share of our increases are going towards salary adjustments for all our bargaining units and non-unit personnel. It includes step increases that these contracts call for, as well as other salary adjustments and annualizations that take place when we compare one year to the next in terms of salaries. We also have several categories of spending that have historically been underfunded. We actually addressed a lot of these in the FY25 budget, but there was still some that we finally got to in FY26, as well as an instance of a loss of grant funds, and we'll go through that list in a minute. In addition, we have similar needs in the buildings and grounds department, mostly around maintenance costs to make sure they're fully budgeted for, as well as capital improvements that we want to undertake as part of just general operations and addressing items that the school committee approved on the capital improvement plan earlier this year. We'll get to that list in a minute as well. And then we have some proposed new spending that we'll identify and some savings that are occurring in FY26. So the total proposed budget this year is $87,583,000. The accounts that are underfunded, we can go through. The athletic budget is underfunded in the coaches' stipends. Not that those stipends have increased, but they were just not fully funded based on the number of teams we're fielding this year. We had the addition of 3 one-on-one paraprofessionals at the Missituck, and these were students that moved into the district this fiscal year and have these services identified in their individual education programs. We currently fund lunch monitors on the lunch fund. That is not allowed by regulation, and we're proposing to transfer that budget over to the general fund in FY26. There's also 2 important software applications that Medford uses. One's called ST Math, and the other is called the MAP Assessment Program. These were previously funded in federal grants. They're no longer eligible to be funded in those grants, and so we're proposing to bring those 2 programs over to the general fund. We've also done a complete inventory of all the instructional software and administrative software we use in the district. One of the challenges were that in prior years, these were funded in a variety of accounts. We've been able to organize them, and on the instructional side, it's basically level funded in terms of fully funding our software applications. But on the administrative side, money was being pulled from different accounts to fully fund those applications, and to get them, all those applications under the technology department, we are having to increase that budget by $92,000. We also added a academic lead, which is essentially a building substitute at the high school for the vocational program. The vocational program had a lot of difficulty when teachers were absent or have an extended illness. There's certain student-teacher ratios that have to be met in some of the shops. So having a regular building substitute that's familiar with the vocational program that can step in when a teacher is absent is critical to the operations of that program. We also utilize daily substitutes in our health services department. And although we didn't really have an established budget to pay for that, so we're doing so in FY26. We also have the need to budget for 2 additional security monitors that are already on our payroll. One was simply a miscount of how many security monitors we had in FY24, so we didn't fully account for the number of security monitors we had going into FY25, and this was uncovered as we were developing the budget this year for FY26. And then it was necessary to add a security monitor to the night shift at the high school in order to provide required dinner coverage for the other night shift security monitor we have. But it also allowed us to provide coverage on a door that was active at night over on the pool side of the building. And then we're also requesting to fund the city year contracts in the 2 schools that receive those services. We implemented these contracts at the beginning of this year after the budget was finalized. So we were able to transfer money from a reserve, a salary reserve account to fund these contracts. So we're asking for the funding to go to the schools this year and kind of restore that salary reserve. There is also this $130,000 is the amount that is charged to the general fund, and there's another $70,000 that's charged to the before and after school program. In addition, we have done a complete inventory of all the maintenance that's required to be undertaken by the Buildings and Grounds Department. And so each of these maintenance areas, which are extensive, now have an estimated expense or budget that covers all these particular areas. So in the past, what would happen is we still have all these maintenance needs, but elevator maintenance has to compete with plumbing, or sprinkler maintenance has to compete with, you know, fixing bleachers. And so it was like, you know, whatever can be put off to a later date gets put off. And this really, I think, kind of fixes the maintenance needs going forward. As well, the extraordinary maintenance is, you know, the capital improvements that we need to undertake provides us with sufficient funds to undertake projects like air conditioning for all the technology rooms, fire alarm panels expected to be replaced at the Missatuck next year, provides us some money to do some repair, replacement for shades, bike racks, things like that, are, you know, would be part of the normal operating budget of Buildings and Grounds going forward.
Can I ask a couple questions from the chair on that one? Or do you want to wait till the end?
I think clarifying questions make sense, and then, you know, there'll be time at the end as well.
Thank you. The grounds maintenance, is that landscaping?
Yes.
Okay. I am glad that's in here because it seems that we always have an issue come July, August, where complaints are coming in on especially at the Missatuck and just the overgrowth. So it'll be really great to be proactive and do that before the kids enter school. And then number 2, my other question is just how much of this 457 is, you know, recurring that you'd see year after year, and how much of it is just one-time funding spending?
The breakout is to increase the maintenance budgets by about 122,000, and then there's about 330,000 in extraordinary maintenance. But as we go forward, we're developing kind of a 5-year look ahead for extraordinary maintenance. So even though a lot of these are one-time expenses, there'll be new one-time expenses in the following years. So I don't expect the budget to go up or down significantly, but, you know, hot water replacement is a good example. You know, we can plan out when we have to replace hot water system in each school. And we should be looking at a number of those and using our best efforts to make sure that's done in a timely manner over a period of time, not so we, having to address 2 or 3 emergencies all at once.
From the chair, this was big for me with the override questions, just making sure we built in a good amount of money similar to this for yearly maintenance. So I just want to make sure that I understand what's recurring and what is one-time funding, in hopes that we can always keep it at or about this number, and it can be routine maintenance throughout each fiscal year moving forward. But in order to do that, we just have to make sure we budget accordingly in other line items, as
Right.
far as like adding additional personnel, because you only want to add so much that you can maintain and not have to
Right.
eventually pull from something like this, which is what they've done in the past. So
Yeah.
I'm going to point that out every
Yeah.
time. I think routine maintenance is just so important, because we see what is going on with the HVAC, and now, the MSBA submittals we did on Friday for roofs at our other elementary schools. It's just, it's catches up to you when you don't do routine maintenance.
Right. I think that this slide is a good example of what the voters were expecting us to do, stabilize the budget. And this stabilizes the building and ground budget. You wouldn't see this type of increase year after year after year. The budget is essentially sound, and then you'd have to deal with inflation, and sometimes there's going to be emergencies that pop up. But essentially, I think this budget going forward would be in very good shape if we can add this amount of money to that budget.
Thank you.
On this slide here, we're also identifying some other new spending we believe is very important and vital to Medford Public Schools. Part of that new spending is strengthening our network and infrastructure capabilities in all the schools. Part of that means funding a director of network and a network technician. These two positions could really help us in the long run, identifying, as we're noticing, aging servers and power supplies that luckily are still functioning, but have definitely passed their date of service to continue to provide service to Medford Public Schools. Other areas, just regarding the increase of spending in special education. Special education regarding our transportation line, we believe we'll need about another $100,000 to $104,000 to cover increases in transportation. We're thankful that we are going to be carrying over some circuit breaker funding from fiscal year 25 to subsidize some of that cost, but we believe we should take some of that cost on in the general liability. Our extended year programming for the summertime for the students who are needed these services, we want to increase that by about $53,000 to fully level fund it this fiscal year. The previous years, we've been funding it through other areas, and this would fully fund that summer program and make sure that the special education department has everything it needs. Another area we identified was project transition. It is a program that we have for certain students in the 18 to 22-year-old demographic department. This department has never actually been funded before through the budget. So this would actually be the first year they will have their own budget line of approximately $12,000 to support that program throughout the fiscal year. Another area was the high school principal wanted to increase summer programming and offer other areas for summer teaching and for our summer school students. So she believes $30,000 added to that line would really support that team and that program as a whole. We want to also budget aside some money for what is in our CBA for the security monitors. We believe having on-call daily substitutes can really help us in the long run in our budget regarding anytime there is a monitor who is out and having to fill that need, either with a custodian or asking a security monitor to come in and fill in. This helps us a lot in that area, and just budgeting a little bit can go a long way. And there were two other small areas we really loved hearing about regarding just more opportunity for our students. We had PSAT exams. We want to increase that line item by another $2,000 to give more students opportunities to take the PSAT exams. And another area we really wanted to support was the language department. There is a 8th grade proficiency assessment test, which costs approximately about $2,000 every fiscal year. And this would really help a lot of the 8th grade students know exactly where they are in their second language that they're learning, and would really help the language department continue to support these students. Next slide, please. Other areas that we identified in savings, we have a student who is graduating, who is currently attending an out-of-district vocational school, so we will no longer be responsible for that salary, for their tuition or transportation. We currently have a vacant position for the SSA position, and we feel it's best to not budget for that vacant position. Also to fund the summer program that the principal at the high school had recommended. She was willing to slash her supply budget by $30,000 to support her summer program, which she really believes in.
Okay, so what I did promise that we would look for areas that we could bring some additional resources to help fund this budget. A big one for us is to utilize the homeless transportation reimbursement that the city receives as a result of the spending that we do on an annual basis. We were allowed to do this to balance our FY24 budget, and there's currently $391,000 in that reimbursement line. If we could use that in FY26, we could reduce our appropriation by that amount. We would reduce the homeless transportation budget in the general fund, and we would utilize this reimbursement for the balance. We could also utilize $170,000 in circuit breaker funds to offset the increases we're requesting for special education under new spending. We also have good fund balances in our culinary arts program and our MEAP funds that could support 4 positions and allow us to reduce the request by $400,000. We also realized that we have a teacher salary in our Title II grant, assuming we have title grants next year, but we could shift a salary onto the Title II grant and save $80,000. And we're also, you may recall that there was this idea about surround care paras back in trying to be creative in getting the FY24 budget approved. And the idea was that 26 paraprofessionals would, work part-time, come in on the later shift, work part-time during the day at the school, and then the balance of the day they'd work in the before and after school program. And then the idea was that these positions could be funded from the before and after school budget. Well, it turned out that only one person actually applied for that schedule. It doesn't really work for school principals because those, those paras are utilized in kindergarten and special needs classes. So they really need to be there for the full day. Paras can, earn some extra pay if they work in the after-school program. But we'd propose to eliminate that Sarankia para position in FY '26, and that would provide an additional savings of $30,000. So far, that's a little over $1 million that we could reduce our request by. I think we're looking at some possibilities of looking at the spending side. So this proposal doesn't really cut into the spending that we're requesting, but we would have to begin to look at either existing budgets or looking at some of the increases we're asking for to trim those back if we had to continue to go further with reducing this request. And that's really the extent of our presentation. If you have any questions, or if there's any questions from the public, we'll be happy to answer those.
Does the council want to ask questions first? You want me to handle the public hearing first? Member Graham.
Thank you. Last year, you talked a little bit about some of the cleanup work that you were doing across the budget to align people into the departments they actually belong in versus sort of being scattered all about. And I know that last year that raised some questions among the public about sort of the appearance that things got much bigger when in fact they really didn't. It was just like a movement issue. Has that all like settled down now where we could look at the number of positions from 24 to 25, apples to apples, or are we not quite there yet?
Well, not from 24 to 25, but certainly from 25 to 26. So there was still this, so for example, in the budget, all the paraprofessional salaries were listed in their own line item, even though none of those paraprofessionals were actually charged to, a line item for paraprofessional salaries did not exist as a separate budget entity. So when you're trying to compare what you budgeted to your actual spending, it's difficulty. That the central office is a good example. You'll see in your budget book, there was a little over $500,000 in salaries spent in the central office budget, but then in 25, the budget's over $1 million. And that's because there were 15 people presented in the FY '24 budget charged to that central office program one. But only 10 of them were actually accounted for in the actual spending. There were 5, all assistant superintendents were charged to other programs in the payroll operation. A couple were charged to the district-wide. So what we did in 25 and we continued in 26 is to make sure that the budget is aligned with how we're spending the money, so we can do those comparisons. It's really important when we're putting together a budget to kind of look at the historical trends, spending trends, and really you can't do that unless there's alignment between the budget and the spending.
So would it be possible then for in the budget list to show us, like I'm looking at, well, school committee is sort of a bad example, but central office of the superintendent, it says 8. So for FY 6, we're planning to have 6 people for FY 26. Would it be possible to like add a column there to say for FY 25, it was 6 or it was 8 or it was 10 or some way to be able to see that,
Yes.
like department to department?
Yep.
Okay, that would be really helpful. I did also notice, or actually a resident pointed out to me that at the Brooks and the Missituck, there appear to be 2 Nexus teachers. Is that correct? Versus just one?
Um, hmm. We'd have to check. I mean, that information comes from Frontline. So it's possible that
They're misclassified or something?
they could be 2 under one school and there might be none under another school, but there are definitely two people. So we can take a look at that.
Okay, it looks like there's 2 at the Brooks, 2 at the Missituck. I see 1 at Roberts. I don't know. Trying to find the McGlynn number to see if there was 1 there too. So there's just maybe a misclassification there. Potentially. McGlynn, oh, here's McGlynn. 1. So there's something strange at
Mhm.
Brooks and Missituck.
Yeah.
There, if you could check into that. And then the other thing that I think would be helpful for us to be able to see on this page or something like it, this like overall department, is for the upcoming budget year of this number, like how much is staff and how much is everything else? And
Yeah, there is a page on that. I think it's towards the end. Yeah, it's on. Page 16.
thank you.
Yeah, so.
Okay, great.
And that was, part of the 84 budget, so I wanted to keep some of those
Okay,
pages that you were used to. And so if this budget was adopted, the ratio between salaries and expenses is still around in the 80, 81 range to 19%, which you want to make sure there's a little bit of a balance. Salary is always going to be the largest share, but you can't starve expenses, for the sake of salary. So I think it's good. It's, a solid proposal based on that.
perfect, thank you.
If there's no questions right now, I can open up the public hearing. So the public hearing is now open. Anybody in favor that wants to speak on Zoom or in person? Anybody in favor of the fiscal year 26 budget? Member Russo, are you on Zoom like usual? Okay, so will you let me know if anybody raises their hand? Thank you, thank you. Hearing and seeing none, I'll call that portion of the public hearing as closed. And now I'll open it up on the floor via Zoom or in person for anybody who is opposed to fiscal year 26 budget as proposed. I'll open it up to anybody that's opposed. We good, Member Russo? Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing and open it up for any further questions from the committee. Hearing and seeing none. Oh, Member Russo?
Thank you. It's actually not a question. It's just something I said last year as well. I appreciate that we're getting closer, or maybe we are achieving it with this budget. The ability to go, hello? The ability to move year to year and actually do comparisons. This having staff that work in one department paid for out of another department's funds, it's the opposite of transparency. And it's really, it does a disservice to the community to be able to read our budget and know which ends, what's going on. It also does a disservice to this body and future iterations of this body to be able to look and, I graph all of the city's line items. And, the city is different, but within the schools, I really have never been able to do that because maintenance is used, when I first came on, maintenance budget was shockingly little, not what it is now. But we actually did do emergency maintenance then. We just didn't hire a paraprofessional, or we didn't hire this staff member, or we, delayed paying raises, or all the other shenanigans to make it so that we could actually get the work done. But there's no way to ever understand historically what happened in Medford financially. And I'm excited that this might be the beginning of that ability. As long as there's no more people they're not miscategorized, but they're being paid out of accounts that any person who's not actively working in the finance department would understand that, oh, there are 5 fewer people in administration. Well, no, there really aren't. There never were those 5 people in administration. So I'm looking forward to the future when we can look at our budget, understand our budget, and make decisions about what's the right way to spend our money. I think that's a major responsibility of this body, and it shouldn't require dozens of hours of meetings to figure out. We should be able to look at the budget. So thank you very much to the finance department for your very hard work the last couple of years to make that right.
Thank you, Member Rousseau. Member Reinfeld?
Yes, thank you. I'll echo the thanks to the Finance Department and to everyone who contributed to this budget. My question is, is there an anticipated timeframe for looking? I know you said we're not adding any building-based positions, and I understand that in the sense of how much uncertainty there is and not wanting to make promises that we can't keep in terms of the funding. I know there are adjustments that get made as enrollment. This is projected enrollment. We'll see what the enrollment actually looks like. I know we have been trying very hard to get the message out around kindergarten, but we often see an influx later. And then, of course, you knew I was going to say this. I have concerns about the guidance levels at the middle schools. Like I said, I understand the not adding positions this time, but is there a time frame when we would look at that and see if that is really needed and be able to add those positions, especially as we understand what the collective bargaining comes to be?
I would think that closer to June, July would be the time for that. I believe that we will get some clarity from DESE on federal grants by then, hopefully. And then, of course, the collective bargaining agreements have to be settled, and then the new schedule will have to be developed. But I think that will all kind of start to become clearer as we get towards the end of June, and then we can look to see if we have opportunities to add some of the requested positions at that time.
We look at new schedules. I could imagine needing staff to support those different, those changes or ongoing uncertainty.
Agree.
Thank you.
Member Graham?
Thank you. Since the public hearing is now closed and I'm not hearing any potential changes to what has been put in front of us, I did just want to again outline we're at the point in the process where we're making a request to the municipal government. Ideally, that request would come before the mayor's number coming to us. We're a little bit out of order there again because of the supplemental appropriation. But I think it does make sense for this body to tonight take a vote to approve this as our municipal request so that we can sort of begin turning all the wheels in getting this over to the mayor and ultimately to the council. We do have processes in our budget process that allow us to make changes to this once we hear a little bit better from the mayor, what the numbers look like and can be sort of relied on to be as we head into like May and June. But I do think it makes sense for us to vote on this tonight so that we can move that forward. And then if there is change that has to happen, that's just part of the process, and we can come back and revise that. Whether that is to your point, Member Reinfeld, to add positions when all of the uncertainty becomes certain. I'm looking forward to that day myself. But really figuring out like, what are those things that would make a difference here? I know there were many, many things on the spreadsheet that we saw that could be done. And I appreciate with all the uncertainty, sort of striking the balance between continuing on until there's a reason not to, and also sort of starting to hedge a little bit about the uncertainty. So I think like this budget does a nice job dancing between those two lines. And, this won't be the last time that we talk about the budget, I don't think, this year. But I'm super excited that we have a chance to take this vote, and it is still March, which is pretty amazing. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the school committee's municipal request. Sure. Oh, do you have something written out?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Rather, if I might just fill that in for you. The motion is to approve the budget presented as our budget request pursuant to policy DVC Phase 3 School Committee Review and Approval of Budget Request.
That sounds amazing.
And before I call the roll, since I'm sitting here and you're making the request to me, I just want to say that I think we are in a decent, okay spot, and we're usually in a much more difficult spot than we are today. We just do have to keep in mind, and I will on the city side as I'm reviewing each department's budget on the city side, especially, there's 25 of them, that there is this funding gap of 2.8% that we have to work together to close. And I know that will take several weeks, if not a couple months to do so, and we can work towards doing that. But just want to point that out because it is a gap, and we'll see what we can do on the city side to provide more than the initial proposal, which is always conservative, especially giving the state of the federal government, but also that the governor is the only one that has released her budget to date, that we do still have that gap. So I just want to point that out as you take your vote tonight.
I'll second the vote, the Member Graham's.
Motion by Member Graham, seconded by Member Rousseau. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm just going to abstain, I guess.
Do we need to take a roll call?
I think we have to roll call that one.
Roll call has been requested.
Member Branley?
Yes.
Member Graham?
Yes.
Member Intapa? Member Olapati?
Yes.
Member Reinfeld? Member Rousseau, yes. Mayor Longo-Kern?
I'm just going to abstain while I work through that funding gap. So 6 in the affirmative, 1 abstaining. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn if there's no further questions or comments?
Our regular meeting.
Our
So a
regular
motion to
meetings.
adjourn the hearing
Thank
and
you.
enter our regular meeting.
Motion to adjourn by Member Reinfeld, seconded by
Second.
Member Olapati. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting is adjourned. You have